everybody, my name is Angus Wright, and I also go by Angus by design, and that is because I identify as a non-binary person. I use they and he as my pronouns. The purpose of this video is to essentially introduce myself, but also to do a walkthrough of the Ram Dass Fellowship page. And it can be found at ramdas.org/fellowship. My hope and my goal for doing this walkthrough is to revisit it with a curious mindset, but also because I hope to step up and to serve as a contributor to organizing the LGBTQ plus affinity group, amongst other endeavors with Love, Serve, Remember, as a means of engaging and embodying the practices, but also in giving back as a thank you for all the gifts that I feel that I received personally as a result of the efforts and the community here. So this is going to act as a walkthrough, and what you can see here is the different ways that you can get connected and stay connected. So with regards to the LGBTQ plus affinity group, you can find us on the Ram Dass Inner Academy, where we're invited to cultivate the flames of loving awareness, and it's under the LGBTQ plus satsang. There are free options available for that as well. And also on Facebook, there's an LGBTQIA fellowship, and it's been going since 2021 and currently has 173 members. So this is just a walkthrough for your consideration and for reflection, but also for myself as a tool to revisit why I'm here and to really embody that. LGBTQ plus satsang. Affinity groups. Affinity groups are shown to be an integral part of creating an inclusive environment. These spaces offer individuals with similar backgrounds who have historically been marginalized an opportunity to socialize, share ideas, and explore shared experiences without needing to defend them from others. Ram Dass said, "We don't try to deny or manipulate individual differences. We honor them. In fact, we seek them out because we understand that before we undertake any serious social action, we need a strong sense of who we are." If you'd like to learn more about the need for an affinity group and why we honor diversity within the unity, please stay tuned as I will read the FAQ section, or the frequently asked questions section, below, and the article by Ram Dass on honoring diversity within unity. The LGBTQ plus satsang. The LGBTQI plus Ram Dass satsang's mission is to cultivate loving awareness and heart connections in a community of kindred souls. We celebrate our unity in the full spectrum of gender and sexuality in and from a space of supported oneness. This will be a reading of the Ram Dass on honoring diversity within unity article, as mentioned before, and as found on the Ram Dass, the Love, Serve, Remember Foundation webpage. In the spring of 1991, I co-taught a workshop called Spirituality for Social Activists. There were 100 social, political activists, and then there were we spiritual teachers. We had planned the whole curriculum for 5 days, and we had scholarships to bring a lot of these people, because these people were out on the firing line. They were burning out because they're dealing with incredibly frustrating situations all the time. And the question was whether a spiritual perspective could shift their consciousness enough to allow them to do a dance without getting burned up by it. Around 2 days into it, the African American and the Latino groups formed a caucus and they stopped the whole game. They said, no white people are going to tell us how to run a workshop. In a way, they disempowered us. And I went from being a teacher to not being a teacher in one swell poof. We spent several days figuring out where to go from there because we had 5 days together. And now it was a free-for-all. I learned that when they started to do that, I, in effect, said, hey everybody, why are you busy making yourself separate? We are all one. And they said, don't give us this we're one bullshit. You have to honor our diversity. Now, just listen for a second. That led me to hear something else. When I was doing an interview for this vastly expensive PBS series that we hope we're all gonna see someday, one of the people I interviewed was a rabbi whose name is Zalman Schachter Shalomi. He's a real Meshuggah rabbi. He's way out there. My first question as the camera rolls is, Zalman, if you were an Israeli, what would you say to a Palestinian? He said, oi, such a problem, oi. And then what he said next was so precious to me. He said, before we can be together, we have to learn how to grieve with one another. In other words, we have to hear each other's pain and feel heard before we can be together. Some of you have played fishbowl before. Everyone sits in a circle, and in the center of the circle are some spaces. And what we did was we had people that were feeling oppressed go in the center of the circle and share with each other their oppression, the feelings of oppression, while the rest of us listened. So first, there were people of color that went into the center and we all listened and they shared what it was like. We went through the incredible pain that many of these people had been through, and then they left. And the gay and lesbians came into center, and then women came into the center, and then white men came into the center. This was a far out one, what it meant to be oppressed by being part of that which is oppressing. In each case, we all listened, and as each person felt heard by everyone else, they allowed themselves to become part of everybody else. It took until the 4th or 5th day before I could say, we are in unity, and everybody could say yes. And that was the process. Can you hear that? It taught me a lot about not using the spiritual cop-out, up level, to avoid the pain. Instead, find the balance of listening to the separateness, hearing the unity that's within the diversity, and honoring this balance. Ram Dass. Explore your heart with community. Sacred community or satsang is the place to find fellow truth seekers on the path. Together, we create a heart-filled space that deepens us into the practices and the teachings. We provide a refuge for those hungry for connection, including ourselves. And collectively, we hold a wisdom that helps us remember when we forget. In the Ram Dass Fellowship, we come together and share our authenticity and curiosities of life under the umbrella of Ram Dass's teachings and Maharaji. The Ram Dass Fellowship has several satsangs. We have a virtual satsangs for those who want to connect with others around the world and share the teachings, or simply have a local group. We have local groups for those who want face-to-face connections within their own community, and we have affinity groups for those who historically have been marginalized, so they can share their unique perspectives together, what Ram Dass called the diversity within unity. The Buddha said that of the three gems, teacher, teachings, and community, the community was the most important. We hope you will be a part of the Ram Dass community. And this is a short video that is connected to and available on the website.
Every time I come on here, it's just such a lovely, light, honestly, like tingly feeling to see everybody's faces and look into everybody's eyes, and you guys are wonderful.
I love everybody that I meet in these groups, and I can't explain it, but it's just instant.
I just wanted to thank you all just for your humanity, for being vulnerable, for getting vulnerable with us. And, the more humanity that I'm hearing, the more vulnerability that I hear from you, the more it makes me feel human, and the more I'm able to let go, and the closer that brings me to God.
I just imagine like having these small groups like we did now, and then hugging everyone and meeting and connecting like this, and that brings me great joy.
Every time I come on here.
So these are the questions and answers found in the frequently asked questions portion of the website. So what is an affinity group, and why are they important? An affinity group is a group formed around a shared interest or common goal to which individuals formally or informally belong. Affinity groups often give people a stronger sense of belonging within a larger community. Affinity groups are an integral part of creating an inclusive environment. These spaces offer individuals with similar backgrounds and experiences an opportunity to socialize and share ideas and interests outside of their daily practice groups or general fellowships. What did Ram Dass say about affinity groups? How can I help? Pages 163 to 167 by Ram Dass and Paul Gorman. A coffee house, an encampment, a free zone for whoever shows up. We're an environment, not an argument for social change. Our aim is to awaken together and see what follows, not to manipulate one another into this action or that. We do so by recognizing the integrity of one another's experience. What have you been through? What did it look like to you? The most effective political action often grows out of telling one another our stories. We're out to share, not to convince. Action follows. So, two policemen talking off duty discover they both feel uncomfortable with racist jokes at the station. They agreed to call people on them from now on. A group of women employees chatting at lunch find out that they've all been sexually harassed by men with power over their jobs. They'll raise the issue at the next union meeting. Parallels in private experiences become the group for common initiative. What's been dealt with in solitude becomes the basis for solidarity. It's a politics of affinity. We don't try to deny or manipulate individual differences. We honor them. In fact, we seek them out because we understand that before we undertake any serious social action, we need a strong sense of who we are. We have to move towards an initial state of unity, openly arrived at. And on page 178, the recognition of our unity, which prevents us from getting lost in our divisions, is something we have to have a strong grasp on from the outset. Any of us who choose to enter the arena of social action must go deep to the place where we are one. And that vision must be profound and all-inclusive, an affirmation of heart and soul. It must be strong enough to stay alive, often under the worst of conditions. Why has LSRF prioritized specific groups? We've prioritized groups for Black, Indigenous, and people of color, and women, non-binary, and gender non-conforming people because these two particular groups have historically endured and continue to endure the biggest impacts of oppression, trauma, and marginalization. Holding space for these groups allow them more of an opportunity to explore the teachings of Ram Dass and Neem Karoli Baba with less pressure to stay quiet, perform, be tokenized, excluded, or offended, which is what these groups have been forced to do for countless generations. By supporting these two fellowships and satsangs, we hope to ensure their success and demonstrate that Love, Serve, Remember Foundation honors our entire satsang, including those who have not historically been honored. And there's an opportunity to read further about why people of color need their own spaces, and it links to another page. A note for inclusion for non-binary and gender non-conforming people in the women's satsang. Let's trade in all our judging for appreciating. Let's lay down our righteousness and just be together. Ram Dass. Treat everyone like you meet, or everyone you meet like God in drag. Ram Dass. The Woman's Satsang is a space specifically for those who do not identify as male and is in alignment with Ram Dass's thoughts and teachings. Ram Dass spoke countless times about accepting people as they are. His legacy advocating for women's rights, gender equity, and equality, and the LGBT community is inspiring. Ram Dass was so accepting that he even had a friend named Emmanuel, who he described as a disembodied being. We invite those who do not identify as male to join a woman's satsang gathering. For those who do not identify as male but don't feel comfortable at the women's satsang, we hope you'll join the general Ram Dass Fellowship events and other programming. Why is it called a woman's satsang if non-binary and gender non-conforming people are invited? We welcome naming ideas that best describes this group, since it's not currently categorized as a recognized group and doesn't have a popular acronym. Why is it important? What is the importance of being in sacred community together? So to promote learning, spiritual growth, equity, and belonging, Love, Serve, Remember Foundation is committed to hosting spaces for gathering together as well as separately in affinity groups. We acknowledge the sacred beauty that can emerge when people with different lived experiences and backgrounds come together to share and learn from one another. We have also learned that when people from different racial identities come together, especially without the benefit of also creating and engaging in deliberate caucus space, it is possible that multiracial space often results in the people of color who have most been harmed by structural racism, carrying an additional burden of educating others at best, or being re-traumatized through the reliving of painful experiences. The same can be said for women and gender non-conforming people who have been oppressed by patriarchal structures and dynamics in spaces dominated by men. What are the Love, Serve, Remember Foundation's intentions of inclusivity and belonging? See all women as mothers, serve them as your mother. When you see the entire world as a mother, the ego falls away. And that's Neem Karoli Baba. Sabek, all one, can also be a teaching on equity. Even in 2020, patriarchy, which is the conceptualization of how men, especially cisgendered men and masculinity, are seen as better than, are more respected than, and hold more privilege than women and non-binary people, or femininity permeates nearly every aspect of our lives, including the spiritual community. Love, Serve, Remember Foundation is proactively working to foster a sense of inclusion and belonging by elevating voices of Black, Indigenous, and people of color, women, and gender non-conforming people to celebrate the diversity among our satsang. We also love, value, and honor those in our satsang who identify as male. We are also grateful for their participation and contributions. Men's leadership, teachings, and voices still dominate in spiritual communities. Our intention is to achieve sacred balance in our programming while centering on the teachings of Ram Dass and Neem Karoli Baba. So should there be a significant interest expressed, we are open to considering a men's fellowship in the future. Men in satsang are welcome to self-organize as an affinity group in fellowship with their local or online communities if there is a desire to do so. So a disclaimer is that the Love, Serve, Remember Foundation is dedicated to continuing the teachings of Ram Dass and Neem Karoli Baba, who teach us how to live in both the absolute and relative realities simultaneously. During these historic times, we as a collective and foundation are being asked to show up for those who are most marginalized. While this encompasses many groups, we're prioritizing the immediate needs of women and Black, Indigenous, and people of color, or world majority. If you have a desire to initiate another kind of affinity group, please submit your ideas for consideration to Jacqueline at ramdas.org. The information provided by Love, Serve, Remember Women's Group and affiliate presenters is for general education and informational purposes only, and your participation is voluntary. Views expressed by presenters and participants reflect their personal beliefs and do not necessarily represent the wider views of Love, Serve, Remember Foundation. So the Women's Fellowship Circle is not a political or outside advocacy group, therapy session, or grievance board. The Ram Dass Fellowship. So if you're interested in joining any of our fellowship groups, please fill out our Ram Dass Fellowship form. So by filling out the fellowship form, you're giving consent to the Love, Serve, Remember Foundation to use your email and local meetup connection for local meetup connection purposes only through a service called MailChimp. This is a space to celebrate, connect, and support one another, share experiences, and connect to Ram Dass's teachings. Please keep interactions respectful so that all voices can be heard and all hearts honored. Love, Serve, Remember Foundation has the right to remove community members who aren't upholding the values. So when you fill out the form, you'll see that you can add your email address of choice. You can enter the first name of that you identify with and your last name, the closest major city that you're in. Sharing how you found out supports the team putting it together. And in your own words, please identify the race that you identify with. You can check all that apply, so you can sign up to be part of the general fellowship. All are welcome. Be part of the Black, Indigenous, People of Color Fellowship for those who identify. The Women's Fellowship for those who identify. The LGBTQIA Fellowship for those who identify. Fraternidad de Ram Dass. Parents Fellowship. Mental Health Pros Fellowship. Design and Tech Fellowship, Young Adults Fellowship, and Explorers Club Fellowship. You can choose to subscribe to any or all of those. And please note that by subscribing, you're agreeing to receive the updates and communications. So you can change your preferences at any time, but this is a really wonderful way of making sure that your inbox gets filled with stuff that is meaningful to you. So thank you, everybody. My name is Angus. I also go by Angus by design. These are just parts of who I am as a soul having a human experience. And I'm just so thankful for the opportunity to engage in this material and engage with this community. So if you see me, say hi. Just know that I am a largely anxious person in a human body. I have my own schmooze to contend with, but I also trust that we are all walking each other to a place of grace and to how we define home. So thank you.